Body shot, ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick, G, and AJ.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. My name is Derick G. I am your host, and let this be your greeting for the next 90 minutes or so. Folks, UFC Vegas 49 was something else. Our main event, a little lackluster, probably should have expected the outcome, but it was exciting, and the UFC sure knows how to sell a damn narrative. Aside from that, folks, we had two Performance of the Night's bonuses. We had Wellington Turman, surprise armbar win right there. Arman Tsarukyan, complete domination. 6 finishes in 11 bouts, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 3 upsets. So clearly, there is a lot to talk about. But Islam Makhachev, come on, man, what a performance. Let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber. AJ, brother, what's happening? Islam Makhachev got Bobby Green out of there real early, brother. The moment that he got his hands on him, I think we all knew it was probably over. Give me your quick take on this main event that we had at UFC Vegas 49, brother. What do you think?
Man, I think it's smash season all day, Derick, brother. Yeah. It is, like you said, once he got his hands on him, we saw, going smooth to mount, everything. He had complete control. Yeah. It looks like it's Makhachev's time. I'm excited to see it, brother, to be honest with you. How you feeling about it?
I mean, listen, I think that this is Makhachev's time, but this wasn't the greatest indication of winning a title opportunity right here. This is basically what I want to say here, man. Bobby Green steps up on short notice. Is this not very reminiscent to Al Iaquinta stepping up for Tony Ferguson, who wasn't able to fight? Khabib got the title shot after. He won the interim championship with that fight, technically, excuse me. But for this one, it's like, okay, you got Bobby Green out of the way, but it's also an unranked opponent, and that's supposed to leapfrog you to a title shot. He did it in dominant fashion. I think that's the key, is he said, I'm going to get him out of there in one, and I'm going to choke him. And he got him out of there in one, and he choked him. So it's like, all right, bro, well, you get points for that, because nobody does that to Bobby Green. Nobody just absolutely smashes him like that. But let me just ask you, man, and this is the big take for the show today. Was this enough for him to be immediately next in line for Oliveria versus Gaethje in May? Is he immediately next, or do you think that like a fight with Dariush should happen before the title fight takes place? I don't know. What do you think?
Man, it's hard because do I think Makhachev is title worthy? Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. But was this the fight that kind of pushed him towards it? I don't know, man. I don't think so. I do. It's sad because I do want to see him for the title, but it's a hard one, man. I think he needs to fight Dariush first, to be honest.
At the end of the day, his win streak speaks for itself, right? 10-fight win streak, 6 finishes in those 10 fights. I mean, this dude is basically smashing everybody. So yes, he does deserve the title shot, and let's get him in there because honestly, it'll be the most interesting fight that we've seen in quite some time, right? Oliveira, let's say he does defend against Gaethje. Oliveira versus Makhachev would be a fun matchup, given that they're both grapplers, both got good striking. But Gaethje versus Makhachev, would this not be just kind of a repeat of Khabib Gaethje? What do you think?
I mean, it depends if Gaethje's gotten a little bit better. Because if he can hold off a little bit more and has better striking, defends the ground and pound, defends the takedowns, that'd be interesting to see. But it almost is repeating history, if you will.
Yeah, it's a little too reminiscent to the Khabib era, I guess I would say. But this is the Islam era, man. This is the Islam Makhachev era, and he's a bad man. He is definitely a bad man. AJ, Gegard Mousasi, the man went to work, brother, and he got Austin Vanderford out of there real early. A lot of people said Austin Vanderford was the man who was going to take the belt away from Mousasi. Austin Vanderford's wrestling was too good. Well, he didn't even get a chance to use it because it felt like Mousasi just hit him with like a 1-2, hurt him like on some. It didn't even look like it hurt him, but he hurt him. Next thing you know, Vanderford takes a shot, Mousasi sprawls, and it was basically game over after that. He just shelled up, and that was it. Outside of the UFC, Gegard Mousasi is hands down the most impressive champion that we've seen in any promotion at this point, right? Not necessarily the best champion, but I'll say just like the most underrated fighter. The dude who has the baddest record, has starched to everybody, but gets the least recognition. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, man. It's like he's a low-flying jet over there. Like he's a killer. Nobody pays attention to him, and even for years and years and years, even in the UFC, he didn't get his shine. It's good to see he's still winning in Bellator, but it almost puts a crux on his history. It's like, yeah, you're still doing it, you're still killing it. But you're in Bellator, so it's a little rough. Not getting the respect he deserves. Gegard Mousasi still killing the game, man. I love to see it, but it's rough that not a lot of casuals know his name or give him the respect he does, man. What do you think?
Well, I'd absolutely agree with you right there, man. It's just one of those things where it's like he acts so nonchalant. He's not like aiming to be in the spotlight. He's not trying to be the Conor McGregor. He's just like, hey man, yeah, I come here and I kick everybody's ass. I'm the best middleweight in the world. And that's an interesting claim to make right now, because you have to try to consider, if he fought Israel Adesanya right now, that wouldn't be just a smash one way. That would be a very interesting fight, in my opinion. So, listen, Gegard Mousasi, the man. He is just the absolute man. Bellator 275 was pretty fun, though, brother. I know that you caught the main event right there, but there was a lot of other good matchups on there. And, folks, I always urge you, if you have the opportunity, I know it's a Friday night. People are busy. They're working. They're doing stuff. But if you have the opportunity, definitely go check it out and just catch some good fights. Some good night of fights over there on Showtime right there for Bellator 275, excuse me. AJ, I went 4-1 on the night. You went 3-2. However, to be honest, man, those records probably should, given the controversial nature of one of the bouts, man, the Ji Yeon Kim versus Priscila Cachoeira, our fight of the night at UFC Vegas 49. However, our over-unders tell a little bit of a different story, man. I was a little rough, brother. 1-4 on my over-unders. It was a bad night at the office, man. Just not what I was expecting. 2-3 for you for the over-under. So, I mean, there is. At the end of the day, 22-15 am I on the year. 25-12 are you, brother. I'm creeping up on you. But what I'm really proud of at the end of the day is that look at how quickly we were able to turn these records into something pretty miraculous, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm 7 fights over 50%, and you are 13 fights, man. So you're just about almost double me right there. The show is doing pretty damn good in terms of our accuracy ratings. And I wanted to just ask you in that note, man, sometimes it is difficult, right? You want to go maybe a little too chalky, right? Maybe you want to say I want to play conservative. I want to take a risk. I know that we talked about it last week, talking about just keep doing what you're doing. Don't vary or deviate from the plan too often in terms of being able to get these picks down, man. But are you still at this point gamifying it and saying oh, well, he's picking that person, so I'm going to have to go the opposite way on this one? You know what I mean? Or are you still just kind of keeping it flush the way that you've always been doing it?
Still keeping it flush for the most part. There are a couple fights where I'll look if I haven't sent you my picks, I'm well, let's see. Let's see. This is what I want to go with. And if they line up, they line up. If they don't, sometimes if I'm on a coin flip, I might throw that in there. This week, I'm glad I did go with my brain and not my gut for the Cirkunov fight. Yeah. But I told you it was a lot closer than a lot of people were thinking, man. That Cirkunov, he was winning until he got his arm snatched. Still keeping it the same, man. Still keeping it 100 as normal. Yeah. I won't lie though, Derick. When we got on the show today, that was the first number I looked at. That 22 catching up to that 25. Yeah. I'm getting a little worried over here, brother. That's a big talking point, or at least a big point for me, man. I'm trying to still keep it ahead.
Well, listen, brother, you got the big lead right now, man, and every single week it counts, man. So I'm just keeping you on your toes. But likewise, man, when I get off to the slow start, I'm like, all right, something got to change here, man. We got to make every one of these count. But listen, man, let's not mince any more words. Let's get straight into the photo collection. Why don't we? And with that being said, man, we'll start off right here. This is Gegard Mousasi doing the do against Austin Vanderford, my man. But this is a 2-part photo collection. The real part is right here. Just seeing this, seeing the belt being awarded to my man, Gegard Mousasi. It seems like it's just another day at the office. He's like, oh, this thing around me? Okay. All right, cool. Hand up. There's another picture. I didn't include it, but he's also just hands up. This is what I do, man. I wanted to question this specifically because we already kind of talked about the fight and all that good stuff, man. But I have the Bellator Championship belt near and dear in my heart. I don't know, for whatever reason. It's nostalgic. It's beautiful in my eyes, and it's a competitor, a very close competitor to the UFC Championship, the current modern one. I used to think the UFC, the old one, was the best one in the world, and you should never replace it because it was so beautiful. But my question to you, man, is where do you rank the Bellator Championship belt up there with the, the one championships and the LFAs and all of that? Where do you rank it? Because I think it's a very close 1A to, or a 1B to the 1A of the UFC title belt. What do you think?
Yeah, I have it right there with you, man. I was actually, when you put this picture up, that's exactly what I look at. I like it looks like a crown almost around with the border. I really like the Bellator belt, and it's old school. I agree with you. It's nostalgic. I thought the UFC, the old one, was the best one too, man. I like the way it looks like. It reminds me of the old school wrestling days when I was a kid. You see those championship belts. They look good. I'd say 1A, 1B for sure with the UFC belt. I like the UFC belt. It looks a little too new school for me sometimes. Like, I don't know if you're a big wrestling fan, and back in the day when they put the spinning belt, they had that little spinner on it.
Yeah.
Not a fan as a kid, not necessarily right now. It's fine. I like the Bellator belt, man, a little bit more for that old school nostalgia factor, man.
Now, would you trust me, brother? I was a huge WWE fan when I was a kid, man. So the John Cena spinning, WWE Raw belt, that was amazing. The SmackDown belt was probably one of my favorites, and that was more the classic kind of Bellator-ish style belt that you see right there, man. Either way, Gegard Mousasi, you're the man. There's nothing else I could say. Folks, content warning. The next couple of photos is going to be a little more indicative of how the fights have gone, man. I didn't add all of the photos, but there's a couple rough ones from some of these. And I believe this is from KSW up next, brother. This is just a crimson mask right there. And the reason why I show this in the first place, sorry about that. The reason why I show this in the first place, AJ, is because the Joel Alvarez versus Arman Tsarukyan fight ended up being very, very bloody, right? There was a cut on the bridge of the nose. It was a crimson mask, and they were talking it all up, saying, like, I've never seen this much blood. But I was like, folks, if you just watch a couple fights, earlier in the week, you will see there's some nastiness. And believe it or not, this man gritted through. I believe he ended up and I think he fought through this fight. I didn't catch this fight in totality, man. But just look at it. I guess this is the point. Look at how bloody this is, AJ. In a fight like this, do you think that it is apt? This isn't even KSW, man. This is just some random promotion, actually. But do you think it is apt here, AJ, to call a fight off when your fighter is bleeding like that? You know what I mean? Because it is an issue. That cut is bad. You see it's all in his eyes. You have blood in your eyes. You can't see. Would you, if you were a corner man, say, like, listen, man, I'm not going to have you fight through something nasty like this. We're just going to call the fight?
It firmly depends for me, man. This one's if blood's getting in your eyes and you can't defend yourself, we're gonna call it, or at least in the next round tell you, don't get your back on the ground. Let's try to avoid it. But I think you fight through, man. You got it's not too much, and at this point, you're not really feeling it, man. Your adrenaline's pumping, everything's going. Unless you can't intelligently defend yourself, I wouldn't call it. That's it might catch a little heat, but what about you? Do you call this one?
Well, you basically gave the golden point right there. Unless you can't intelligently defend yourself, then, we're just going to call it. But if this dude was able to, keep it going, stay still game, and, do the things that you need to do when the referee's asking you to do them, then I guess it's fair game right there. Either way, this is just nasty, man. Just going back and forth. This is just, crimson mask. Terrible, but beautiful at the same time. This photo right here, AJ, you remember when Cowboy Cerrone, he blew his nose after he got his orbital smashed? Well, this is basically the similar situation right here. This dude, man, I don't know this dude's name, but he is a PFL Challenger Series fighter right here, fought this weekend. He made the critical mistake of blowing his nose after the orbital gets smashed. Now, it looks like his eyeball is displaced, and that's what a lot of people are saying. I was actually watching your boy, Brian Suter. He put a good video out on this, man, so folks, go check him out. He actually puts out great content, so go check him out. But he was basically just talking about, like, all right, they're going to check where the bone breaks, all that. The eyeball does have so much pressure on it at certain points that it kind of, like, moves up and dislodges itself from its original position. But right here, I just wanted to ask you, man, like, people who say they want to be a fighter, it's like, so you want to be a fighter, right? So you want to do this thing, man. This is part of the territory. This comes with it. Obviously, was this a mistake on his end? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, this is the casualties you deal with in the combat sports, man. Is this worth it, AJ, to you? If you're recommending people to fight, is this worth it to sustain something like this and keep it pushing?
It's not for everybody, brother. Yeah. It's not for everybody, and it is a consistent grind. And I imagine, I don't know. I watched a little bit of the video. Once he said the eyeball wasn't dislodged, I was like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. Yeah. Then I don't really need to watch the rest of it. But imagine, you do this and you lose vision. That's a scary thought. Like, that's a very scary thing to deal with. So that's why I say it's not for everybody. It is 100% worth it to go and test your mettle and see what you are, see how you stack up, mano a mano against another man. But it's a wild ride, brother.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there. It is not for everybody. Absolutely not. All right, AJ. Ramiz Brahimaj, we talked about it. He came in, stepped in on 9 days' notice to fight Michael Gilmore, and he did the thing that he needed to do. Focus on getting the fight to the ground, take his back, and choke him out. That's the Rose Namajunas classic approach, right? I'm going to punch him in the face, take their back, and choke him out. That's it right there. He got the job done. But like we said in the pre-show, you got to feel for Michael Gilmore in this spot, right? It's like you have a short notice replacement. You say, hey, Dana, Uncle Dana, it's all good. Give me the short notice. I want to fight. I'm being a company man, and then you just get starts like that to go 0-2 in your short UFC tenure. What words of encouragement do you have for Michael Gilmore in this spot right here, man?
Man, it's always a grind, brother, and there's never a finish line, man. Sometimes I was talking with one of my other buddies. Sometimes in life, you're on that upward slope, but you got to keep grinding to stay at the top. Yeah. Sometimes you're on the bottom, you're getting choked out. Life's rough, and you got to grind your way out of it. It's never over. Keep it going, man. I mean, yeah, you're 0-2, but you did Uncle Dana a favor, and luckily he's the entire business is an honorable. They're men of their word. They might cut a lot of people, but if you scratch their back, they will scratch your back. So I'm excited to see Michael Gilmore back. It was a very rough loss for him, but I'd say keep grinding. What about you?
No, I mean, listen, man, I'd echo those sentiments, but I would also say that it's like you just got to focus on getting really skillful in one area. It's like Ramiz Brahimaj. That was just a very tough opponent, man. But if you can just lock down one area of expertise and just hone that thing down in the UFC, try your best. That's really what it comes down to. But this is a quid pro quo, right? I believe that's how you say quid pro quo business. You do something for me, I do something for you. So you might still have some favor left in the tank right here after taking this bout, but hopefully he gets in there again soon, man. We have a little bit of a better performance. Lastly, folks, I just wanted to post this. AJ, this is just Jonathan Martinez foot to the face, man. This dude threw 1 million kicks in this fight. He's looking like a killer right now. 2-fight win streak. His last fight was against Viad Lavishvili, I believe, if I'm not mistaken on the name right there. And Jonathan Martinez has been able to get the job done, man. How impressive of a prospect is he still at this point? Now that he's able to, stay on weight and do all the good stuff. Obviously, this fight was at 145 instead of 135 on behalf of Alejandro Perez. But Martinez has shown that, aside from just a couple hiccups here and there, man, he's the real deal.
Besides the couple of hiccups, man, he's lost a little bit of steam for it. But, man, I still like Jonathan Martinez. Yeah. This dude is a killer. Like you said, spamming kicks left and right. Nothing worse than eating some toast for lunch, man. And that's what this picture is right here. I think Martinez is still a killer, to be honest with you. And I'm glad he's kind of coming back up. Maybe he does fight at 145. Maybe he stops fucking around and missing weight. But either way, it'd be I'm excited to see where this kid goes.
Yeah, well, no unnecessary shots need to be taken because my man was on point this camp, you feel me? But yes, I understand. Things happening in the past. Listen, those things do follow you into your future, unfortunately. But either way, man, that was the photo collection. So, folks, before we move on, I do want to just remind you, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Drop a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/freethinkersclub, or type in Bloody Water Podcast on Google. Type it in on Brave or whatever your preferred browsing engine is. But the most important thing is you share the show with your friends. You go cop you some merch. Use code BWP10 for some merch, and you'll see my guy AJ right there. He's rocking the Bloody Water martial arts tee right there, folks. So whether you into some of our more stylish designs, whether you're more of a martial arts focused design, it doesn't matter. We have it all for you. www.bloodywaterpodcast.com. And with that being said, AJ, let's jump into the main card, brother.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. Well, AJ, I think that was a very apt, what do we call this? Audio drop, whatever you want to call it, brother, to get us into the main card because, hey, we have to start this off with a very interesting matchup, a slightly controversial matchup between Armen Petrosyan, a Muay Thai champion in and of himself, and the RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez. I don't want to say that this fight happened the way that I intended it to happen or the way that I thought that it would take place in my mind, but it kind of did. What was our main talking point on this, AJ? Gregory Rodriguez has fallen in love with the hands. He's such a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, but for whatever reason, he just wants to knock people out. And I said we saw him be the nail against Jung Young Park, and he wasn't quite the greatest nail. There were points in this fight where he was very much the nail. But there was more points, I personally think, where he was the hammer, and he was giving it out to Petrosyan. He might have not have been landing the point shots, right? The shots that win you a karate point fighting tournament, but he did land the shots that make the statement in an MMA fight. So talk me through it, brother. Petrosyan did more damage on the feet in terms of striking numbers, right? He mixed it up like 40 shots to the legs, 40 to the body, 40 to the head. Rodriguez was headhunting, but he was landing the bigger oohs and ahs of the moment. You know what I mean? Landing the big shots, crowd pleasing. In this, where you have to weigh up on 2 scales, numbers versus excitement and power, and we're going to talk about this clearly in another fight on the main card. How are you judging this right here?
Man, I always go for the power shots. Like if you're just sitting there just tapping somebody in the face, not doing any damage, no matter what, it's not like that detrimental, But if you're getting smacked on and every punch this dude lands is clubbing you, you're feeling it, you're moving back, you're staying on the back foot, I think that deserves a little bit more weight as far as the scoring goes. I just wish there was kind of unison, like if they were going to score one way, like, all right, guys, today we're going all off of points, that's how we're going to look at it. Points, because the judges, they don't have the numbers. We get a little spoiled in the fight. We get to see the numbers. We get to see the striking, where the mix up, the head to the body, the legs, and all that stuff. The judges don't see that. And it's, as a human, you can't count how many strikes are actually landed, but you can see the big impactful ones that actually hit. And I just wish they would judge one the same way they judge the entire rest of the fight, or the rest of the fights, the entire rest of the night, excuse me. Because it just mixes it up. Sometimes the points win, sometimes the damage win. Me personally, I think damage always takes the upper echelon of it. What about you, Derick?
Well, I don't necessarily agree there, because I do think that at the end of the day, on a number basis, right, if you were outlanding your opponent 2-1, like, you do deserve to win, right? It might not have been the big blow up shots, right? But it's like the Cyril Gane approach. It's like you're just picking away at him, da-da-da-da-da. Next thing I know, I'm up all of these strikes. Yeah, you might land a big shot or two, but I've done the more impactful work necessarily, right? I beat up your body from head to toe. I've done all of that. If you look at the numbers on this fight, man, 127 significant strikes landed for Petrosyan, 61 landed for Rodriguez. So even though Rodriguez passed the eye test and he was walking him down, landing the big shots, doing where he kept hitting his head, where he'd go like that, just, like he looked mean, he looked nasty, but that's not what wins you a fight. What wins you a fight is punching the other guy in the face, kicking him in the legs, kicking him in the body, kicking him in the face, whatever. I will say the takedowns for Gregory Rodriguez were something, because he did have a couple of deep submission attempts on Petrosyan that Petrosyan was able to get out of, and that's what I count right there. I say, okay, you got these submission attempts. Well, that's more valuable than just a couple of leg kicks right there. You had a potentially fight-ending sequence. How am I going to judge that in comparison to the dude who just landed a couple shots that didn't really faze Rodriguez? Either way, the split decision went in favor of Armen Petrosyan. I believe on verdict, the verdict community actually scored it in favor of Rodriguez. But this is not one that you can sit there and be upset about either way, right? Because if they would have gave the nod to Rodriguez, everybody probably would have been like, but our Petrosyan outlanded him 2-1. How did Rodriguez win the fight? So I think this was a matter of that. But are you upset with the decision, I guess, is the ultimate question.
No, I'm not upset with the decision. The one thing I am a little upset with, if I'm not mistaken, somebody scored this. One of the judges scored this 30-27. That's a little more egregious. I heard that come out, and I was like, what, 30-12? Okay, I don't know. I just don't know what fight you're watching, brother. But all right, no, I think this one made not a robbery report. Definitely one way or the other. It happens, and it is how it is. So I like the fight. I had Rodriguez winning as well, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I was glad that it was just a little bit of a war. That was a good fight.
All right, brother. So I'm glad that I actually took the time to look it up, because I was about to absolutely slander one of these judges for giving the 30-27 in favor of Petrosyan. And I thought it was somebody who I'm not going to name, but it was Tony Weeks. We'll put that one out there. That's the referee, Tony Weeks. He gave it 30-27 in favor of Petrosyan. And when we look at the media scorecards, man, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10-4 in favor of Rodriguez. So take that for what it's worth, man. I still think it was a really close fight. I don't think that you can be upset here, because the lesson learned for Rodriguez is you just have to be more active. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was a cardio thing. I don't know what the situation was. The control time was good, over 1 minute and 30 seconds of control time, but got outlanded 2-1. He landed the big shots, but you got to just pick it up a little bit. Am I surprised that this was the result? Not necessarily, especially given that Petrosyan is literally a striking champion, a Muay Thai and karate champion. I'm just surprised Rodriguez didn't want to get it to the ground quicker. I thought that was going to be more of a key game plan, and that broke my 5-fight parlay right there. Otherwise, it would have been perfect on the night. So we'll take that for what it is worth, man. But shout out to Armen Petrosyan. I do think that he's going to be a fixture in the middleweight division, given that he stays there. I mean, who says that he doesn't go up to light heavyweight? I'm really interested to know why he actually came down to 185 for this fight. But either way, big win for Armen Petrosyan. Now, the big talk of the night, AJ, Arman Tsarukyan did something that a lot of fans aren't happy about, man. If you go to the YouTube channel, it's all love for Joel Alvarez. That's all it was. Nobody was giving love to Tsarukyan. They're saying, hey, you got a good video right here, pal, but you picked wrong. That's what everybody was saying. Well, I don't think we did. I think we picked right on this one, but it comes at the cost right there of having two massive fan bases, because Arman Tsarukyan, he has a massive fan base in Russia himself. Joel Alvarez, clearly the prodigy out of Spain, the destroyer out of Spain. And AJ, we have a little bit of clarity as to why the fight ended up how it ended up. So if you remember, at the end of the day, Arman Tsarukyan, man, he was on top of it from point A to point, Z, from start to bottom, nasty elbows, but getting the fight to the ground was the most important part, right? his wrestling is so good, he was able to mitigate the submission attempts of Joel Alvarez by getting into that half guard, by moving into certain positions where the submissions weren't necessarily a major threat to him. But I guess on the first takedown, AJ, Arman Tsarukyan broke a few of Joel Alvarez's ribs. That's what Ali Abdelaziz has now reported, that Joel Alvarez, a couple of those ribs got broken on the first takedown attempts, as Arman Tsarukyan then, put it on him a little bit more, started dropping down some elbows, nasty cut on the bridge of the nose, leaking blood everywhere. There was really nothing he can do. And obviously the submission attempts are going to be even harder when now you're not only slippery with sweat, but blood is everywhere. In terms of an impact showcase performance, because I had Tsarukyan by decision, I didn't see a finish incoming for him. Where does this skyrocket the man? I watched every single one of Joel Alvarez's UFC fights, and I'm like, this man is an absolute destroyer. Like, he destroys everybody, except Damir Ismagulov, of course, right? What does this mean for Arman Tsarukyan? This is like a big-time win, brother. I can't overstate this enough. I think that this is the biggest win of the night, I think, personally. But where does this place him in the lightweight division?
Man, it moves him up. I mean, like you said, Joel Alvarez is an absolute destroyer, man. And the fact that we were able to see Tsarukyan on a full camp, fully dialed in, ready for his opponent, and then to smash him like that, like, it was a very, very impressive win for Tsarukyan, man, going forward. This is going to be a long-time contender in the division, man. And I know they have him, Tapology has him at number 12, but he's going to be fighting those top 10 opponents easily, or very, very quickly. He's going to have a lot of stuff going on for him. I think it jumps him up, man. I want to see this dude fight in that 10 through 5 range right now.
Well, let me ask you, do these two meet up again in their future?
Oh, yeah. 100%, man, because they're both young. I forget how old Joel Alvarez is, but I know Tsarukyan, what is he, 25? Yeah, dude, these dudes are going to be fighting again for sure.
Yeah, man, I definitely think that's going to be the case. I don't see this being too impactful for Joel Alvarez's career. I think that he's going to come back very strong from this because as long as he can make the weight class, as long as he can make 155, he's a dangerous, dangerous man right there. I will say, when we're looking at the numbers, Tsarukyan, obviously, he had all of the control, 6 minutes of control time, 2 for 2 on his takedowns. Outlanded Joel Alvarez in total strikes 93-27. So that's kind of the thing. I said once Joel Alvarez gets going, it's dangerous, but he never got going in this fight. Arman Tsarukyan did what he needed to do. And the bigger question right here is, he says his main goal is to basically fight until he gets in a position to fight Islam Makhachev for the belt, when Makhachev already has the belt, because he thinks that's what it's going to be. He wants the rematch. And we talked about it, right? We said, all right, if he would have just stepped in short 9 days notice to fight Islam Makhachev and then loses, you have no case for that trilogy match. Now the door is wide open, brother, and it has more heat on it than ever. I know, listen, folks, this isn't a political show, but we do need to be sympathetic to the, current events that are happening right now. You know what I mean? The Russia-Ukraine invasion and all of that stuff, man. I'm interested in how this how this affects the fighters, how this affects the global scene, because you have these prominent fighters hailing out of Russia, very prideful men, Dagestan, Russia, all of that. But for Arman Tsarukyan, he says he wants to fight Islam Makhachev again in Russia. I don't even know if that can happen at this point, given that the UFC isn't as a United States-based business. But either way, that is the fight to make, right, in the near future. Like, that's the inevitable final boss scene that we want to see between these two competitors. Am I correct?
100%, Derick. And I like the fact that Tsarukyan has that in his head where he's like, oh, yeah, no, I want him to win the strap. And then I want to beat his ass to actually get that back. Like, I like that, man. Having that little bit of grudge, man, it makes me like Tsarukyan even more, and his performance. I mean, imagine the wrestling of Tsarukyan, or a full camp Tsarukyan versus Makhachev. Man, it's going to be a very exciting thing. I think you build him up a little bit more, get Makhachev that belt. That's a fight.
That's a real fight right there. I do want to just lastly note, what makes this even more impressive is that Arman Tsarukyan, due to visa issues, wasn't even able to train at American Top Team for this camp. He had to train out there in Russia with just some local Russian guys. And this was an interview that I was listening to. He's like, yeah, man, these aren't the most well-known guys. Like, you guys don't know who any of these people that I'm training with are, but trust me, this is the work that I need. I'm going to finish this dude, not a problem. And he did, man. Very, very, very impressive win by Arman Tsarukyan. Cannot wait to see him step into the cage again, man. Clearly one of the favorites in the lightweight division. But AJ, man, it's time for a robbery report. It's time to talk about it a little bit, man. Ji Yeon Kim versus Priscila Cachoeira. They took home fight of the night. And not to mention, Arman Tsarukyan did get performance of the night on that last one. But This was the fight of the night right here, and I didn't think that it was going to be able to surpass the Armen Petrosyan versus Gregory Rodriguez fight, which could have been fight of the night. That was basically locked in fight of the night until this fight took place. However, this is the same situation we're talking about, AJ. Ji Yeon Kim did all of the work on the feet. She outlanded Priscila Cachoeira 170 to 102 in terms of significant strikes. She did get taken down once, so that's something to take note of, but Priscila Cachoeira got a 29-28 across the board decision, brother. Like, across the board. Like, everybody was like, oh yeah, Cachoeira won that. And I think me and you both know why this is. So I want you to start this off, brother. Give me your assessment. Obviously, pressure was a big deal, but the power, the body language, right? The demonstrative nature of Cachoeira probably won her the fight, especially in that third round. What was it in your eyes that won Cachoeira the fight, even though Kim was being surgical with her strikes?
Surgical, Derick. No, I actually had Kim winning the first 2 rounds, and then I had Cachoeira coming back. There was a moment. I mean, it was the same thing, man. Power in the Cachoeira versus the speed and the precision of Kim. Very interesting fight. It was. I don't really know what, I guess, did it in the other rounds, because it was the more impactful shots that Cachoeira was winning. You were able to see the body language of Kim turning it down, but at the same point, there was a start of the third round where Kim looked like she was turning it up, man, and Cachoeira kind of started to have that look in her eye, and that's when in the third round, Kim started landing the bigger shots, and it almost reinvigorated Cachoeira to go forward, and then she started really throwing those inside elbows, literally, she said, fuck the hands, I'm throwing elbows all day long, like 2 minutes left in the third. I think it did come down to body language and the visual aspect of what was going on for these judges. They were just not necessarily watching the punches, but more watching the fighters of how they held themselves. Because once Kim kind of got up at the beginning of the third round and then really started to lose it, you did see she kind of melted a little bit back. She was down to take that back foot back against the cage, rest on what she did for the rest of the fight. Because I thought she looked great in the first 2 rounds, man. In that third round, I did score for Cachoeira because she kind of had a little bit more tenacity and grit in the end of it. It was a good fight though. Either way, what do you think, Derick? What gave you the impression Cachoeira won?
Well, I didn't think she won. I thought that Kim won the fight. I thought that she passed the eye test. I thought Cachoeira on the eye test won, because what I saw was Priscila Cachoeira with the big animated strikes. I'm going to walk forward, walk you down. I'm going to eat 5 punches to get into the range to then drop the one that shakes you and makes you stumble 3 feet across the cage, right? Kim had that on Cachoeira as well. Don't get me wrong. I think Cachoeira just got really tired, and Kim was able to just start picking her apart, and that was the game plan. And Cachoeira, if you look at, there's a post-fight photo, man, where she's wearing it, brother. Like, her face is roughed up. Kim's isn't even really that roughed up at all, which goes to show also, like, who do you think won the fight? That's not the only indicator, right? Because some people, they wear damage differently on their face, but I do think that it was the body language. I think when Cachoeira was dropping those elbows on Kim, she just shelled up and she deflated herself, her whole body. So if she could have stayed tough, like, nah, I'm here to bang, I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna trade and do all that, instead of being the fighter who I kind of talked about last week, saying that like when she's on her back foot and she's getting pressured, she crumbles a little bit, you know what I mean? And like, she was still being surgical. She was still counter-striking amazingly, but like the body language, everything, she isn't that same fire fist flow fighter that she is when she's on the front foot just putting it on you. So Cachoeira, man, listen, it's just the body language. It's the vigor, I think, that won her the fight. But my question to you is, I got 2 questions. The first one is, and we'll start piece by piece. Cachoeira, can she sustain success in the UFC? She's 3-4 now with this fighting style, brother, because she's hands down eat 5 shots, throw big looping punches. Her nickname is Zombie Girl for a reason. She eats a lot of damage, man, and she's not the most technical striker in the world. Let's just say that. Is this sustainable for her in the UFC?
No, man, not at all. And to me, those elbows were a last act of a desperate woman. Those were like, oh shit, I got to do something now. Yeah. And when that starts happening with somebody who's a little bit more game of an opponent, who's down to square off and stand in that phone booth, that's how you go to sleep.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Against somebody with a little more power in her hands, Priscila Cachoeira definitely could have been caught napping on that mat right there. So the second question to you is that this is 3 losses in a row for Ji Yeon Kim. Now, this is the one that's heartbreaking, because you say, I did what I needed to do to win the fight, man. They just didn't give it to me. I hope Uncle Dana gives her another shot in the UFC. She's clearly a talented prospect, brother. This is the whole key right here. Ji Yeon Kim, let's take a look real fast, man. When I'm just looking at the numbers right here, yes, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. She lost to Alexa Grasso, a decision, lost to Molly McCann, a decision, and now Priscila Cachoeira, a decision. Her last win was against Nadia Kassem. That was a knockout victory. But before that, she lost to Antonina Shevchenko, man. She's 4-1 in her last 5. Does she stick around? Because I think she's so talented, brother. I think she has the chops to make a run if she just gets it together. But does she stick around in the UFC after, amassing a 4-1 record in the last, or a 1-4 record in the last 5?
I hope so, man. I do think Ji Yeon Kim is a very talented fighter. I just hope she gets kind of invigorated because of the loss, man. That she really, you said it best, man. She deflated on that when things started going against her. She really deflated, and I'm hoping she comes back in a little bit more tenacity, man, because she is a really good fighter. I hope they keep her around. I disagree a little bit with what you said though, Derick, because she did not do everything she needed to do to get the dub. Obviously, you never leave it to the judges. Yeah. But I do think she had the opportunity to do that, and it just slipped away from her.
So last thing here, because this just made a great point. Do you think in her head she walked away thinking that, though? Like thinking like I did what I needed to do to win? Or do you think she I could have did more? Because like if you're talking about strikes, brother, that's just what I'm saying. She outstruck her by 70 shots. Like she's like statistically, number-wise, I should have won the fight. But like, do you think that she's taking that away in her head, or do you think that she's going the opposite? Because that's really interesting.
It's very interesting because it's hard. Like, I think to make yourself feel better, you say that. Yeah. But then later on in the practice room or in the film room, you go back and you look and you say, like, I guess I didn't leave it all out there, because at the end of the day, if you leave it to the judges, you didn't win. You obviously didn't get the full thing. Sure, you might have got the dub on paper, but you didn't finish the fight, and that's really what we're going for.
Yeah, I think it's a Floyd Mayweather quote or something where he says, like, it's our job to be the judges or something like that. I don't know. You might have said that. I don't know. I heard that recently, and I thought that was really interesting because it is your job to not leave it in the hands of the judges. But listen, AJ, I think that Ji Yeon Kim is probably going to have to go take a trip into go talk to her accountability mirror, you know what I'm saying, and get something together right there. Shout out to our boy David Goggins. But that is a long-winded approach to saying that Priscila Cachoeira got the nod. Robbery report? Probably not, right? Just because Ji Yeon Kim should have done a little bit more. However, on paper, I do agree, Ji Yeon Kim should have got the nod. So that's it. All right, AJ. Listen, this was a very fun fight, and you said this was a lot closer than a lot of people anticipated. Now, I didn't anticipate this not being close. That not by any stretch of the imagination. Cirkunov was the bigger man. He is more well known as being the grappler than Wellington Turman is, because Turman has a propensity to want to use his hands. But what surprised me the most is that Misha Cirkunov, such a well-rounded grappler, did one of the more rookie grappling mistakes that you can make, and that is hanging out in somebody's guard, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt guard, and putting your hands out over kind of towards if you're not controlling their arms, your hand should be on the hips or, tucked into the chest. He went for a punch, had his hand out, got caught in an armbar immediately, and you could tell with the muscle mass on Misha Cirkunov, he clearly has not a lot of flexibility, right? Because as soon as that armbar went, he tapped immediately. So I was like, oh, we didn't even give it a shot right here. Trust me, man. There's no reason to take unnecessary damage on an armbar. Trust me, I do it all the time. You know what I mean? Where I'm just like, fuck, I shouldn't have done that, but I let my arm bend too long for no reason. This was a very impressive win by Wellington Turman. However, I think it does go to show that this success that he is having, it is hard fought. Every single time he gets a win, or every time he fights, it's just hard. Like there's no easy fights for the man. What do you make of this matchup? What do you make of the win by Wellington Turman, second round armbar?
Man, very impressive win. I thought he was losing the fight, man. There was a moment in there where I was cursing myself. I was like, you should have went with what you were thinking. Like, you should have went with that gut decision, bro. Never doubt it. And then out of nowhere, Turman gets that beautiful armbar. Something must have popped for Cirkunov, because you're right. Homeboy is so jacked. He has to not be that flexible. And he was even shaking his arm out a little bit at the end. Like, I'm sure something felt weird in there. But I think you said it best in the Slack, Derick. Jiu-jitsu for the win. Cirkunov made one rookie mistake. Next thing you know, your arm's getting bent how it's not supposed to, and you got to tap. Very impressive win for Turman, but a hard-fought victory, man. You can't have too many of those to have a long, fight life, because those just start kind of pile up a little bit heavier and heavier, man. Although it does teach Turman a lot, about everything about his fight style. Gives him a little bit more kind of grasp on the situation. Excuse me, but Rough win, man. Eating a lot of those shots and taking the fight, because he, even on the ground, he was still getting smashed on from above.
Oh yeah.
So, but gritty win, man. That's how you got to get it done.
I mean, Turman got outstruck 50-24 in favor of total strikes. So it goes to show, it's just like he got the win, but it was like a last ditch effort. It was the Hail Mary approach that ended up working out for him. Cirkunov was clearly the bigger man in there. That's just the thing, man. I do have newfound confidence in Cirkunov that he can be a real player at 185, though, because it seems like the cardio was holding up, his power was holding up, his strength was holding up. He just got caught, and it happens to the best of us, man. For Wellington Turman, I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive, man, because when we're looking at his last 5, he's 3-2, right? Went over Marcus Perez, went over Sam Alvey, which was very close. He got a bunch of points taken away, still got the dub, and now went over Misha Cirkunov. But when he has lost, he's lost in devastating fashion, where he's getting knocked out, like bad, right? But if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, before the last 5, you have a loss against Carl Roberson. That was a split decision. Then you got a bunch of wins that he rattled off outside of the UFC. In terms of the future of Wellington Turman, because it's only going to get tougher and tougher from here, this is another issue of that. Can he sustain this? Can he continue to keep getting the dubs on the chalkboard? Or is it going to, be like, hey, man, you can't get hit that much. You can't put yourself in these compromising spots so much. Because when he had the backpack on Cirkunov, when he had his back and he was working for that choke, it was all good until it wasn't. And then it was like, I looked at it like both of these dudes used a bunch of gas. Who has more left in the tank come round 2? Because Wellington Turman looked tired. And I think Cirkunov had more in the tank, but Turman got the job done. So can he have this prolonged success, or do you think that this is just a lucky win?
No, this isn't just a lucky win, man. I think he can have prolonged success. He just needs to learn a little bit more in those hands, man. A little bit more in that defense, because he was getting picked apart, and Cirkunov looked big, man. I thought for in my mind, for some reason, whenever I pictured Wellington Turman before, I pictured him looking like a Cuban Missile Crisis, like what's homeboy's name?
Julian Marquez.
Julian Marquez. I thought Turman was thick. I thought he was big as fuck. And then I saw him post up against Cirkunov. I was like, I guess I was thinking wrong. He looked a little skinnier than I remember. And Cirkunov was doing well. Yeah. But I do think Turman can have some success here in the future. He just needs, like I said, man, what is he, 25? What did I say before?
Dude, he's like 24, yeah.
24.
Yeah.
Yeah, still young, still has a lot of time to go, can learn a lot and have a longer success rate or a longer lifestyle, He just needs to, get back in there.
Yeah, and he's over there training under Glover Teixeira, the champion right now, man. So I think that's definitely helping him out, but it's just too close to call, man. Big win by Wellington Turman. We both called it. We both said he has all the tools. We just need the mental focus, and I still don't think it was there. I still think we need to lock in just a little bit more. But I'm rooting for you, man. I'm rooting for both of these guys. I didn't really want to see either guy lose, but this was a big win by Wellington Turman. Now, lastly, AJ, Islam Makhachev rolls over Bobby Green in a matter of 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Now, believe it or not, Bobby Green managed to last longer than Dan Hooker did in their fight, which is probably a win in and of itself. But as soon as Islam Makhachev got his hands on Bobby Green, it was game over. He outstruck Bobby Green total strikes 30-11, for significant strikes 14-9. But Bobby Green never really got going. And I guess we should have thought about this. Folks, I did want to just make a note real quick. Sometimes we romanticize these matchups, man. Sometimes you pretty much know what's going to happen. I think the clear thing we should have predicted was Islam Makhachev within 1 for Bobby Green. If he could smash all these other dudes, the Davi Ramoses, the Drew Dobers, the Dan Hookers, all of these guys, why not Bobby Green? And we gave all the arguments for why Bobby Green could put up a very formidable challenge or a valiant effort, but I made a statement, AJ, last week, and I said Bobby Green, win or lose, is in the top 15 come the Tuesday update rankings, and that's not going to happen, brother. Not at all. Not with this effort. I romanticized it, folks, and I apologize to you right there. I apologize to myself, first off, man, because this is some bullshit right here. I hope you got my $10 that I sent you, AJ, over this fucking not landing the takedown for Bobby Green. I am a man of my word. But listen, man, this is just as clear as day. Obviously, Bobby Green is the golden voice here on the Bloody Water podcast, so we got to support our boy. But sometimes there's a difference between blind support, blind faith, and looking at the reality of the situation. And I think that we fudged up a little bit. Even though we both picked for Makhachev, I think that maybe we hyped up Bobby Green, and even in the eyes of our viewers and the people who listen and watch our show, maybe we gave a little bit of a false bravado or a false confidence in the hopes of Bobby Green getting the nod. Yes, we both officially picked for Makhachev, but brother, this was ugly. This was bad. this was not the moment that Bobby Green needed right here. I think he needed a little more of a valiant effort to be able to actually capitalize on the moment. Give me your take on this, because clearly I am a disappointed man here. So give me your take, brother.
I think it's a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking, man. I think I do think it obviously very impressive fight for Makhachev. He did what he did. My first note that I wrote down is whelp. Yep. Like, what do we expect? You know, that's kind of it is what it is. It's how it's gonna go. I do think we romanticized it a little bit for Bobby Green, but there was a moment in that fight, man, when the thing started off, and Makhachev started striking, he threw that head kick. I was like, oh shit, this might be a better fight for Green, man. I almost put some money down on Green, like a bigger prop bet than I thought on for Green. I'm glad I didn't at the end of the day, but you know, there's something, he had it going, he had it feeling until, you know, those hands got locked around his waist, and then it was, you know, dump and run after that. Hard win, not what Bobby Green wanted, man. And I mean, what did we expect? You know, I was even thinking, because I think Dan Hooker was also a late fight replacement for Makhachev. He's kind of getting good names, but not the hardest fights out of these good names that he's fighting. So it's interesting to see how the hit list of Makhachev is pretty deep. You know, it has some good names on there: Dan Hooker, Bobby Green, all these fighters that we've been talking about, but not necessarily the prepared good fighters that he's had. It is a lot. I mean, obviously not his fault. What is he going to do? Your opponent pulls out. It's not his fault. So interesting to see, but I still, you know, I would have liked to see more. I definitely thought there was more for Bobby Green that he could have had. Yeah. Just Makhachev, man, dominating,
man. And I wanted to ask you this, just because obviously you're not going to be mad at this, but Islam Makhachev, hardest training camp of his career, so he says, just to go in there and beat your opponent in 3 minutes handedly, barely take anything back. You know, it's like he walked out of there unscathed, didn't hurt him. Told everyone, he's like, I told you I was going to do this. I don't know why you doubted me. You know what I'm saying? But he's quickly becoming Smesh style, Khabib style, you know what I mean? Trying to talk a little bit. I don't know if he ended up talking to Bobby Green at all, because it didn't seem like Bobby Green talked much to Islam Makhachev, just because you're in fear for your life. You just stay away from me, please. You saw Bobby Green pulled you know what I mean? Yeah, man. For folks who are just listening, it's when you put both of your hands out and you just panic and say, please, don't hurt me. You know what I mean? But big win by Islam Makhachev. There's really nothing else we can say, but he is going to be fighting the winner of Oliveria and Gaethje. They fight in May, so we'll see what happens there. He rolled over him. He smashed him. Performance bonus of the night? Not quite. That was reserved to Tsarukyan and Wellington Turman. But either way, that was a big win, AJ. Now, we need to move on a little bit, right? Because that was your main card recap for UFC Vegas 49. But we need to talk a little bit of a ranking review, brother. And I want to talk about a little bit of a dispute in a division that we haven't talked about too often, brother. I'm going to be talking about the women's bantamweight division. Newly crowned champion, Juliana Pena. Really the only people anybody are talking about right now is Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes, and a New Mexico favorite, Holly Holm, right? However, AJ, there's a little more depth to this weight class than I think we're giving people credit for, or we're giving the division credit for. So I'm going to pull up real fast the UFC rankings, and we're just going to take a look at, or not the UFC rankings, excuse me, we're going to take out our personal rankings, but we're just going to take a quick dive into the eyes of, me and you right here, brother. So let's jump straight into it. Why don't we do that? All right, boom. All right, AJ. So as you can see, folks who are watching with us, if you're just listening, folks, we are taking a dive into our women's bantamweight records, personalized and UFC consensus. But at number 15, I have Jessica Rose Clark. At number 15, you have Stephanie Egger. Now, Stephanie Egger just beat Jessica Rose Clark, so what I decided to do was put Egger at 14, Clark at 15. You don't have Clark in your rankings, and understandably so. I understand. Don't even need to talk about that. That's not the big case. The big case here is that the UFC still has Norma Dumont, who has not fought at bantamweight, I can't tell you how long. She is a featherweight fighter in the UFC, or she has been. But basically, she is that filler. She is that person who you just stick in there because that number 15 spot is changing every other week, depending on the type of performances we have. But we had a fighter who fought at 145 pounds this weekend, who was your sleeper, AJ, who didn't get the knockout, who broke her knockout streak, but she still had an incredible performance against a very, very tough, a much larger opponent in Ramona Pascual. Josiane Nunes, brother, she is a force to be reckoned with. She's going to be around in these women's bantamweight divisions for a long, long time, and I think she's going to make real noise, and I do think that she can get into that top 10 fairly quickly if she maintains the type of style and the success that she's having currently. So here, I'm going to pull this up just a little bit bigger, brother. Make us a little, boom, look at that. All right, cool. All right, AJ. So this is basically what I have to ask you. Josiane Nunes, she is 9-1. She's on an 8-fight win streak. She's quickly put the division on notice with her electrifying offensive approach, reminiscent to a mini Mike Tyson to a degree. Nunes has the speed, power, and the grappling. That is the key to give the women's 135 pounds top 15 real problems. So I want to ask you right here, my man. Jessica Rose Clark versus Josiane Nunes. Another size discrepancy because Nunes is only, 5'2", 5'3", maybe, right? Jessica Rose Clark is the bigger woman, right? Has a little bit of wrestling. Obviously not that great in compared to the judo of a Stephanie Egger, but either way, like I said, she has really, really good wrestling, and Nunes has really good grappling, speed, power, all that. Who wins in that fight?
I like that fight a lot, man, because I think that'll bring the thug out of Jessica Rose Clark. Yeah. And I think it'd be more of a stand-up banging and trading than anything. But I honestly think Nunes, man. I think Josiane Nunes gets the better of it. And I like Jessica Rose Clark as a fighter, too. Like, that's the big thing. I'm rooting for both of them. I honestly like Rose Clark a little bit more than I like Nunes, but I do think Nunes gets the win in this one.
How about Norma Dumont, right? 145 pounds, brother. We just saw that Josiane Nunes can step up and she can handle the task against the bigger woman. Norma Dumont, while she has good striking, her main thing is wanting to wrestle. And Nunes, once she gets you in that guard, man, she's throwing up triangles, arm bars. She's trying to throw some stuff up. Who wins?
I think Dumont smashes her, man. Dumont and the kicks and the wrestling. I think she's because was Ramona Pascual. I think Ramona was her first name. Pascual is definitely the last name. Yeah. But was Pascual the striking danger that we were expecting her to see? Not really, man. She got kind of pieced up against Nunes for the most part, and Nunes is just more well-rounded of a fighter. But I think Dumont is so strong and so precise and has been doing it for so much longer against better opponents. I think it's just a little mismatch right now.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with you right there, but okay, that's valid point. How about a Carol Hossa? And this is tough because Hossa is a dark horse in this division. I think Hossa should be fighting top 10 personally, but that would be an interesting matchup because Hossa is very much that kickboxer, right? She's a Brazilian kickboxer, I guess, if you want to call it that, but she's very much a striker who can wrestle and grapple when she needs to. Nunes, if she walks forward with that power, man, I mean, it's going to be a banging contest right there because Hossa does squeak out a lot of decisions. So what do you think there?
Yeah, she does squeak out a lot of decisions. This one's a lot closer of a fight for me. You know, I think Nunes can kind of get on the inside, has that power, has that advantage. But if Carol Hossa can maintain the striking advantage, it's going to be a long night for Nunes. I'm a little torn. I think this one's a coin flip. I'm giving this one to Hossa.
Okay. And yeah, Hossa might be a little bit too much of a test, but the point remains. That goes to show you how good Nunes is, or we could kind of talk about the upper ranking of the 10 to 15 spot in the top 15 and say, well, she has a real chance to actually win the fight. So I think that's enough in and of itself to say she is a top 15 fighter in the women's 135-pound division, even though this last one was at 145 due to the short notice nature of it. Do you agree with me right there, AJ? Come the rankings updates this week, will you have Josiane Nunes in your top 15 at women's bantamweight?
Yeah. The hard question for me is whose spot does she replace? Because there's a couple in there. Maybe I do feel like she's top 15 potential, but I think we might need to see one more actually in the weight class because that's the next big thing, man. Can she actually get to that weight class and then have the same performance? That's my big question for her. What are you going to place her in the top 15?
Yeah, she'll be in my top 15 for sure, man. I think that, like we already talked about it, Jessica Rose Clark, who gets the nod right there. I think Nunes can beat Jessica Rose Clark given that just nonstop offensive style of that left hand in your face all day long, the speed, the power, all of that. I think she'll be in my top 15. I think she's done enough personally. Jessica Rose Clark, on the other hand, man, I think that she's a very, very, very talented fighter, brother. I've been watching her fight for a long, long time, but I do think that she's more popular than what her record is right now. You know, if that makes sense. No disrespect at all. It's just she's a very popular figure. Nunes isn't a popular figure, but she's starching people, you know what I mean, left and right. This is her first decision win in years. So I'll just say that, man. Big things coming in the women's bantamweight division, which is very thin, which is also why I think Nunes deserves to be in the top 15, just because of how thin. It's just a lack of depth, really. But, I mean, that is your 60 seconds rankings review, folks. I will have Nunes in my top 15. TBD for AJ right here, man. We'll see what happens. We'll see. So we'll check back in next week on the post show, folks. But with that being said, it's time to move on to the fighter of the night. AJ, let's get it.
Right now, there is not a man
Fighter of the Night. Okay, AJ, fighter of the night, my man, and we can go a couple of different ways here. But if you don't mind, I would love to kind of take the start on this one, take the lead. And I'm going to do something unconventional, folks. I'm going to talk about my fighter of the night tonight, but my fighter of the night actually had nothing to do with UFC Vegas 49. However, my fighter of the night is coming from Bellator 275. I'm talking about Sinead Kavanagh. And folks, I don't even remember if I talked about this on the intro whatsoever, but Sinead Kavanagh did something that was one of the most gritty things that I've seen in quite some time in her matchup against Leah McCourt. And let me give you a little bit of context, folks. Leah McCourt in her last, or maybe not her last fight. Let's take a look for Leah McCourt. She fought Janae Harding recently, right? So this was before her Jessica Borga fight, which she won via unanimous decision, big win. But she fought Janae Harding, and she was losing this fight. Janae Harding is a very big fighter at featherweight. She's a striker, all that good stuff. Caught her with an up kick, got her in the triangle, secured her position to then take another fight, win that fight, and then fight Sinead Kavanagh, who just fought Cyborg for the championship over there in Bellator. Now, Sinead Kavanagh, she is from Dublin, Ireland. She is a national boxing champion, a multiple-time national boxing champion. Leah McCourt is an IBJJF champion, so this is literally boxer versus grappler right here, jiu-jitsu versus boxing. They come together. This fight takes place in Dublin, Ireland. You have Conor McGregor out in the crowd. You have her coach, John Kavanagh, SBG Ireland, the whole entire nine. So this is all home court stuff for Sinead Kavanagh. Now, what happens? She becomes a grappler. She gets Leah McCourt in a deep Kimura attempt, right? McCourt, I don't know how you did it, but props to you, man. Whether it was grit, will, determination, or a mixture of grappling, defense, and IQ, you did not fall victim to the Kimura lock. You got out of there. You kept fighting. However, what happened in that exchange? Sinead Kavanagh somehow, someway hurts her knee. Her left knee goes out. So now every time she's throwing a shot, she can't plan on it. She's falling down. Every time she's trying to get a good position, McCourt could just push her over, top her over, and now she's just laying there on the floor. All right, man, this is not where I want to be. So a national boxing champion is on one leg, had to turn into a bit of a grappler and still do the gritty thing and win 2 out of 3 rounds in the fight to take home the decision win. It was a thing of beauty. Sinead Kavanagh, she put on for her hometown. You got to think about the pressure that is amassed in a spot like that. When you're a Sinead Kavanagh, you're fighting in your hometown. Conor McGregor is out there, and you're on a gimp leg. You got one knee to fight with. You're fighting a IBJJF world champion, a jiu-jitsu champion right there in Leah McCourt. It was a thing of beauty. I cannot overstate it enough. Sinead Kavanagh, out of all of the fighters, the Arman Tsarukyans, the Islam Makhachevs, the Terrance McKinney, who we didn't even talk about, who I probably should talk about in a second for his incredible victory. Out of all of these fighters that we have on this entire card of fights this weekend, Sinead Kavanagh, you are my fighter of the night. You did a very gritty thing. You did one of those things that is more in the ethos of the Bloody Water podcast, where it's about grit, determination, and overcoming adversity. You are my fighter of the night. I don't know what else to say there, man. I hope that promo did something. Cut a good promo for her. But AJ, man, I hope that I didn't do too much for you to top. Who is your fighter of the night for this weekend? It didn't even have to be UFC Vegas 49, clearly, because I just pulled a little bit of a wild card out of my sleeve, man. What do you think?
Hit the wild card on it, Derick. I like that pick a lot, man, because you're right. That is very much in line with the ethos of what we support here. Yeah. You got to get it done how it's presented to you. And Kavanagh showed up, man. And then fighting on a one knee, everything you said, man. Yeah. Amazing fighter of the night. I'm with you right there. But don't worry, brother. I'm giving some shout out to your boy T-Rex, Terrance McKinney, because he is my fighter of the night, brother. The way this dude's getting it done. I mean, he only has 2-3 fights that make it out of the first round. Sure, he's ran into a couple rough patches as he was getting to the big show, but now that he's in the big show, man, he's been putting people lights out in round 1. And to come back, he was a slight underdog against Farazim. I think it was like -115 to -105, something like that. But Terrance McKinney's about to start getting the respect he deserves, man. To come in 7 seconds is your first fight. You have all that pressure. Everybody knows this dude's knocking people out left and right. You make it past that first little bit. Maybe you start getting a little bit of doubt in your head. Not Terrance McKinney, man. This dude stays true to who he is. Got a deep submission, rear naked choke round 1. Even the commenters or the comment team, the
commentators,
or whoever. Commentators. Thank you, Derick. The commentators. They were even saying, oh, that choke's not, he's not in any danger. He's not in a position where it needs to be. Oh, and then the choke gets put out. And then you see Farazim tapping. So they don't even know the strength of Terrance McKinney out there. This dude's staying gangster the entire time, man. big power, big shots, and to come in, sure, you have that 7-second knockout against, who was it, Matt Frivola, and then you jump down, you hurt your knee, and then come back and still have a star-studded performance. I think Terrance McKinney's going to be around for a very long time. He's only, 27 years old, fighting in the 155-pound class. This dude's a real deal contender. I'm excited to see where he goes for the future, and just on a steamroll, man. And not to take the name from his second last opponent, but this dude is really out here crushing people left and right. And I think it's going to be that way for a long time until he gets to that top 5. Even then, we might see him start crushing some people in the top 5. But this dude had an amazing performance, at UFC Vegas, whatever it was, Vegas 49. There we go. T-Rex, Terrance McKinney, you are my fighter of the night.
Brother, that is a great fight of the night to have. I'm actually a little ashamed that I haven't talked about him yet. It took us an hour into the show to actually start talking about him, but his performance was incredible, my man, and this was his 8th first-round finish in a row. So it's just like Terrance McKinney, brother. You were killing the game right there. All right, folks, that is the fighter of the night, and we can move on to a little bit of matchmaking, which is going to be important here. And AJ, when we're talking about matchmaking, my man, I think that it's only fair that we start off from bottom to top. Let's start off with Armen Petrosyan. He got the win over Gregory Rodriguez. Listen, man, this was one of the more, colossal wins that you could have on this fight card right here, especially because of how dangerous Gregory Rodriguez is. He's well regarded by everybody, I think, in his very short UFC tenure. But I have a fun fight right here, AJ, and maybe this is too much too soon, because Petrosyan, if you could beat Rodriguez, you immediately should jump into that kind of upper echelon of the non-ranked opponents. But if we're trying to build him up a little slowly, which sometimes the UFC does, I think he should fight none other than the Tough 29 champion, Bryan Battle, brother. Power versus volume. Muay Thai versus kickboxing. This could be a fun fight given the dog that Bryan Battle is. But if not, I have another pick just to play it safe. What do you think about that one? Who do you have?
I like it. It might be a little too quick for Bryan Battle. I don't know, man. Like there's and don't get me wrong, Battle's an amazing fighter. We've seen him come through adversity. I like him a lot. I'm pretty sure he was my fighter tonight, if not last week, the week before. The whole time Petrosyan was fighting this fight for my pick, there was one guy in my mind where I was like, man, he fights very similar to this dude. I'm going Armand Tsarukyan. And I don't know if Tsarukyan has something going on with him right now. We haven't really seen him too much in the media. I even had to check UFC to make sure it's still on the promotion. He is. And I think it'd be a great fight, man. The two styles, they're very similar. They're clashing the entire time. Petrosyan might be able to get one up on Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan has a lot of power, though. So I think it makes it for a little more slower build up, if you will, but Tsarukyan still has a big name on him.
He does, and I think it would be a fun fight. My only reservation that I have with this is that Tsarukyan has now become a grappler, like a serious Greco-Roman grappler. Like, that's what he's choosing to focus on. When he fought Trevin Giles, that's all he was trying to do, right? Just take him to the ground, hold him down there, which is totally cool. Ground and pound works, you know what I mean? Gregory Rodriguez, that's what he tried to do to Petrosyan a little bit, but I want to see a fun stand-up battle from a Muay Thai champion. That's why, and I guess this kind of would have been reminiscent, but my other option was the winner of Andre Petrosky versus Nick Maximov on May 14th. Now, Maximov clearly is going to try to do the same thing, right? Hold him down. But Andre Petrosky, even though he's a wrestler, he'll bang a little bit too. You know what I'm saying? So I think it'd be a fun mix between all of those guys, but I think I like yours the best. Roman Tsarukyan probably would be a little more fun than the Bryan Battle match, just because of how experienced Roman Tsarukyan is in comparison to Bryan Battle. That's really the point that I'm making there. But, all right, man. Arman Tsarukyan, man. He got the win. He got the big win over Joel Alvarez. At this point, he's saying, give me top 5, give me top 10, give me whatever. And there's two people that make sense right here, brother. He called out one of them, and the other one, this is a courtesy of Uncle Chael. And he asked, who would win this fight? Michael Chandler versus Arman Tsarukyan, brother. Off the top of your head, who wins that fight? Who are you giving the nod to?
Damn. Tsarukyan. I'm going Tsarukyan on that one.
Over Chandler? Oh, man.
First thought was Chandler. I was like, oh, yeah, Chandler all day. But I think Tsarukyan might, he's a little younger. He has a more vigor, if you will. I don't know. That's a close fight, but that's a hard one.
Yeah, that is a hard one because I can't just automatically give the nod to Tsarukyan on this one. This is Michael Chandler that we're talking about, brother. Yes, did you lose to Justin Gaethje? Yes. Are you losing to the best to do it? The champions and the people who are number one contenders? Yes. Arman Tsarukyan, his best win to date is Joel Alvarez. Literally, you know what I mean? Obviously, his very formidable performance against Islam Makhachev was telling, but he still lost the fight, right? Chandler, former champion in Bellator, all that, man. I just don't think we can discredit the man because he has a couple of losses, you feel me? Like, let's put some respect on Chandler's name. I think that'd be a fun fight. But the other one, if we're not going to get him up there immediately, Gregor Gillespie, right? Come on, wrestler versus wrestler. Kind of young versus not so young in Gillespie, but Gillespie doesn't want to fight Tsarukyan because he's trying to fight up, not down. However, I mean, at number 9, Arman Tsarukyan, he got the win. He's number 13. It's getting closer and closer. At a certain point, you're not going to be able to deny it anymore. I'm not going to say run, but you're not going to be able to decline that option anymore. You're going to have to fight him. Who do you give the nod to on that one? Gillespie or Tsarukyan?
That's the fighter that I had that I was picking. That's the one I think that needs to go down. Tsarukyan versus Gillespie. I'm going Tsarukyan, man. I'm going with the younger man. And don't get me wrong. I think that's also a very hard fight.
Yeah.
Not as hard as the Michael Chandler fight by any means, but I do think it's a good one to really see how good the wrestling is of Tsarukyan versus the American-style wrestling of Gillespie, because Gillespie's an absolute dog out there, man. Don't like it. Just because he hasn't been fighting lately, a lot of people forget about him, but this dude's a dog.
I just don't know if I can give that one to Tsarukyan either, brother. I think both of those are going to be tough fights, man. I think Tsarukyan is the real deal. Don't get me wrong. I think he has future champion written all over him. But, I mean, come on. Gregor Gillespie, that's the gift right there, brother. That's the gift. Let's just leave it at that, man. Either one of those fights, those would be fun fights, though. Priscila Cachoeira, brother. I mean, she got the win on paper, right? You know, but like we got to see where we go here, because I don't know if we can move her up too high with that fight style she has right now, man. She just has a lot of openings. She leaves a lot of openings. I would like to see a little tighter guard, you know, for her striking guard, but I got two fighters, man. Either a slow approach or let's just start throwing her up there and see what happens, man, because a win against Ji Yeon Kim is pretty big. However, there's a prospect that just debuted, she's a little older to make her debut, but she's a good striker and has good grappling. Jasmine Jasvidicius. You remember she just fought Kay Hansen, just dismantled Kay Hansen earlier, just a couple weeks ago, right? Similar to the Ji Yeon Kim matchup, man, because Jasvidicius is long, she's lanky, and she's sharp prospect with great stand-up and grappling, brother. What do you think about that matchup?
I like that. I like that Jasvidicius pick a lot, especially because of the holes that Cachoeira presents. Jasmine is very tight, man, and she can hit those holes very sharp. So I think that'd be a good one as well. That's what I wanted to see. Someone who's a little bit more technical, willing, and has the power to get in that dogfight. Because if you can expose those holes that Cachoeira is, she's primed to go to sleep.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have anybody on that one, brother? Or do you like that pick?
I like the pick. I also wanted to see Ariane Lipski. I think Ariane Lipski would put it to her. Good striking, maybe not the best ground game wrestling approach, and it's a little bit of a slow build, but also is a Jasvidicius pick. So I like them both, man, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I have one other one if you're just interested in hearing it, man. Sijara Eubanks, right? You know, she's a really good grappler, and she got some power in those hands, brother. I mean, what do you make of that one?
I think Sarge is just too much for Cachoeira, man. I think Sarge would put it to her. That's throwing Cachoeira to the dogs, which I'm always down for. I like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we'll see what happens there. Like I said, I feel like we can't move her up too high. You know what I'm saying? I want to see some fun matchups still. And she is 3-4 in the UFC, so it's still under 500, still floating in those waters right there. Wellington Turman, brother. This is our boy, clearly, but I'm going to throw him to the wolves, man. And I think that he should actually fight somebody who shared the card with him. And I think he should fight Gregory Rodriguez next. I think we keep him in line with these grapplers who got good striking, and we keep him with these same matchups here, because this is now a prime spot. I mean, Gregory Rodriguez, beating Misha Cirkunov is a great feather to have in Turman's cap. And with Rodriguez coming off a loss, this would be interesting to see who gets the better between these two. I think Rodriguez probably wins it, but given the submission skills of both of them, I mean, it could be close. What do you think?
I like that. I mean, especially both fighting the same card, they both get the same recovery time going forward. I wanted to see the same thing, something a little grappling heavy, but still has really good striking, because Turman is an amazing grappler. I think they needed to rebook the fight that fell through. Wellington Turman versus Rodolfo Vieira. I think that'd be a good fight, man. Just the submission skills of both of them going in, as well as they can throw some hands together. We don't know if it'd be a full-on grappling match or if it'd be a striking battle. I think either one, the Rodriguez or the Vieira pick, would be a very entertaining fight for Turman, as well as bump him up where he needs to be in the rankings. Sure.
So we'll see what happens there. We'll definitely see what happens there, man. But lastly, do we even need to talk about this one? Islam Makhachev, you just fight the winner of Oliveria and Gaethje. You're not going to wait for Dariush. That's not going to happen, right? Nah.
No, it's well, it's weird because it's almost disrespectful to say, you need to fight one more. Like, you need that because he always says, even in his mind, he deserves it. And I hate the phrasing he uses when anyone says they deserve something. I instantly, the begrudger in me wants to say, you don't deserve shit, bro. Like, go and take it. If you deserve it, go and take it. So I do think he needs a fight, and I think he's ready for it. But I mean, we'll see what Uncle Dana says.
Well, listen, the common or the most one of the most popular phrases in sports is that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you can negotiate for, and that's really where we're at on that one, man. So that is the matchmaking for UFC Vegas 49. And lastly, brother, just some word on the street, and I'm not going to do this conventional style. I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm just going to read off something real quick, man. This is an interesting story that I had just picked up, kind of on as I was browsing the interwebs and whatnot. UFC hopeful Jennifer Heffa Gonzalez details an at-home USADA conflict that prompted her release before her debut, brother. So basically, man, Jennifer Gonzalez, she fights out of she was going to be the first Chilean fighter to fight on the UFC roster, right? So it was going to be history and all that. However, she had to deal with USADA, and we know the deal with USADA. USADA is often all right, we need to know where you are at, for X amount of time, throughout your training day. We need to know where you're at every single point of that day so we know where to find you. If we need to test you, we can go straight there. Boom. We have to have you in our eyesight, in our vision sight, all that good stuff. And I guess so where Jennifer Gonzalez trains at, she lives right next door to where the gym that she trains at. It's just a different door, right? So she's coming home. She's didn't take the USADA protocols too seriously, right? She's I'm in the general vicinity. I'll be fine. And the USADA people's oh, what's up? We're here. We're pulling up. We need to keep you in our sight. And she's all right, well, I need to go put my dogs away and go change my clothes and all that good stuff. And, I'll just be right back, right? And they're we have to keep you in our sight. You don't understand. We need to keep you in our sight. She's listen, bro, if you come over here, my dogs are going to attack you. Just fucking stay. And it's a reasonable thing, right? In any other circumstance, you're okay, just chill. Let me go change. I'll be right back. It's not like I'm going anywhere. But you never know. In the eyes of USADA, they could be saying, well, you're probably going over there trying to flush something or trying to go do, something sneaky, right? Just behind the scenes. So what happens is she goes, puts the dogs away, comes back, change of clothes. And by that time, USADA gets in an argument with her partner / coach, and leaves. And next thing you know, she's cut. She doesn't get a shot in the UFC. Broke the USADA protocol, didn't take it serious enough, and cost herself a huge opportunity. Now, it is weird. It is strange. It is kind of unfair to a degree to lose an opportunity like that over something as minor as that. But what do you make of the situation? Do you think this is uncalled for? Do you think this is just? Do you think that athletes should take these protocols more serious? What do you think?
I mean, I think they should take it more seriously. At the end of the day, that's her fault for not doing what needed to be done because they are the the overseeing authorities basically in the situation. Also, if you're gonna throw away your entire what's the word I'm looking for, future basically in the fight game, all because you just want to go put your dogs away and change your clothes, man, fuck them. They're dogs, it's all good. Sasha Bear, she's in the bed, chilling. And I would never say, just ignore her completely. But she can wait if I got to go take a piss test real quick. There's things out there, and it's your future. If you don't have a job, what are you going to do for your dogs? What you can do for your, your significant others. So I think it's a bad call. I do think, you they're testing you for a reason, and keeping this entire sport safe. And sure, a lot of people think that USADA is basically, out there, I'll use the word Nazis, they're out there, they're cracking down on people left and right because there is a lot of flagrancy out there that can be presented. So, are they a little too strict? Probably. Is it at the end of the day 100% her fault? Yeah. So I don't give USADA too much heat. I think you got to do what you got to get done either way. So,
Well, speaking of commissioning bodies, I guess if we want to call it that, not necessarily, this is more of an anti-doping agency, but if we're speaking of commissioning bodies, the Bellator 274 winner, Adam Piccolotti, I don't know if you've heard about this story recently, but he posted on Instagram saying, look at how much of a warrior, how much of a savage I am. Here's video of me cutting weight, and it was a pretty gruesome video, brother, where he's throwing up, you know what I mean? He's looking like a dead man walking, and it wasn't the safest, most practical way to go about cutting weight. But it was glorified in his eyes, and you can understand why, because he's saying, listen, this isn't about me glorifying these unhealthy practices more. This is me saying, look at how much of a savage and a warrior, look at what I'm willing to go through. Look at how much suffering I'm willing to go through to make my weight and to win my fight. And he did. He made the weight. He came in there. He won the fight. And at the end of the day, walked home victorious, did what he needed to do. However, he has now received a suspension, man. So let me see. Off the top of my head, I don't see the length of the suspension, but I wanted to say it was like 6 months or something like that. So the article goes, Bellator 274 winner Adam Piccolotti has been suspended after he posted a video of what the Association of Boxing Commission president is calling an unnecessarily dangerous weight cutting process. The video is now deleted, which showed him crawling out of a portable sauna and vomiting green-yellow fluid all over a grounded towel. Piccolotti also stated in the caption he continued throwing up 20-plus times throughout the night. So it just goes to show where it's like, this is a gruesome sport. This is a punch somebody in the face sport. So what are we talking about? Instagram video, you shouldn't have posted that. You saw Joel Alvarez's face this weekend, right? What the hell are we talking about? But this is also not the best precedent to set to glorify it and say, hey, upcoming fighters, it's normal to throw up 20 plus times while you're cutting weight. We know on this program, we say all that weight cutting is more or less sanctioned cheating. This is basically what it is. How about you fight at a more respectable weight class closer to what you walk around at? Obviously, that's not the case. That's not the culture. Do you think that a suspension is too far? Do you think he should have been suspended for this? Obviously, you don't have to agree with the weight cutting tactics, but that is the culture of the sport. So what do you make of this situation?
I think it's too far, man. I don't think you suspend him just because he basically snitched on himself. I mean, it's a bad look. You don't want to put that out there. You're the reason why you got suspended.
Yeah.
And if he could have, everybody else is doing the exact same shit, man. Everybody out there is also crawling out of a sauna, throwing up. It's not a very isolated incident. It's just being blown up. So I think it's not a good look, man. I mean, I think the suspension is way too far. It's sanctioned cheating. Everybody's doing it. What are you going to do? So I think this bad call on the suspension. What about you?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think the UFC Embedded series has actually shown off and glorified fighters doing the same exact thing in the UFC. So it's yes, is it too far for the suspension to or for the commission to suspend him? Yes, he did the thing. He already won the fight. What? I don't know. I don't know. I do think it's a bad precedent, but I don't think you should suspend him and stop him from being able to make money and support his family, even though who's to say he's going to fight in the next 6 months or whatever, you know what I mean? It's you only fight a couple times a year, but either way, that is the word on the street, folks, for UFC Vegas 49, Bellator 275, all the fun stuff, man. And next week, AJ, we got a pay-per-view on our hands, brother. We got a grudge match, Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal, and all they can do is market this around saying, these two former best friends, teammates, all that, man. Listen, it's been a long time since these two considered themselves best friends or whatever you want to call it. But I want your quick take right off the bat, AJ. Who are you giving a little bit of an edge to off on paper, I guess, because we haven't even really gotten down to get the fight, film, all that stuff. Colby Covington or Jorge Masvidal? Street Jesus or I don't even know. I don't even know what we're calling Colby Covington at this point. But yeah, who gets the nod?
I forgot Colby Covington's nickname.
Well, it's Chaos.
Chaos. There we go. Chaos. Okay. On paper, it's gonna hurt to say, brother. It's a wrench right to my to my street background. I give it to Covington. I think Covington is the better fighter, the more well-rounded fighter. He's been doing it longer at this weight class. Although Jorge Masvidal, man, he can get it done. He has the power and the skills to get it done. What about you?
Yeah, I'd have to lean the same way. I just don't see how this doesn't necessarily play out kind of like Usman Masvidal won, right? Where Covington does the smart thing, doesn't engage in a firefight, and uses his wrestling to win. However, these two know each other, so that's the key that throws a wrench into it. But I'm leaning Covington here, but I do think if it gets into a firefight and if Colby gets emotional and they just stand and bang, that's Masvidal's number one path to victory. Either way, we're going to be breaking that down next week on Friday for the UFC 272 preview show. This is our post show for this week, UFC Vegas 49. And folks, I want to remind you one last time before we get out of here to hit up our website, www.bloodywaterpodcast.com. Go get some merch. Go rock the cool shirt that AJ's rocking right there. Bloody Water Martial Arts, established 2020, man. Oh, how the time flies. But go do all of that good stuff. Code BWP10 for 10% off all merch at checkout. And lastly, folks, drop a like, subscribe. If you made it this far to the video, we really appreciate you. Drop a little comment too, man. We'll always comment back, all that good stuff, man. You know what I mean? We'll do our best to make sure that we're constantly responding. But Bloody Water Podcast on Instagram, Bloody Water Pod on Twitter, and that's basically all I got. AJ, got any last words for the people?
Derick, you said it best, man. Just share with your friends. Go out, cop yourself some merch. Use the code BWP10. Sure, it said I didn't even notice, Derick. It's already been 2 years, but we're still gonna be here for the long haul, folks. This isn't just a flash in the pan show. It is the best MMA show in the entire world. So you better jump on now that we're still up on the up and coming up, on the growth path. Before everybody starts saying you're a bandwagoner, you can tell them I've been listening since day one. Go get yourself some merch. Help it out. Share it with your friends. We love the support, and we'll comment and see y'all next week.
Absolutely. Be an OG, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't be a follower, be a leader. You know what time it is. Folks, that is it for us, and until next time, peace.